Well, Couch Critics, hope you're doing well. We're doing absolutely fantastic because we're going to be talking about some more national second division or national second tier news for you. It's been a couple of weeks since we've uploaded a video. Obviously, in the last video, we talked about the FA announcing there is going to be, or they're taking expression of interest for a national second division. And now a day, well, depending on when this video comes out, it'll probably be the final days for submissions. We're just going over some of the clubs that have already officially announced, and we'll talk about some that are likely to put in a submission but haven't officially announced it. As you can see by the little thing down in the corner, I'm Brad, and I'm joined by Sog. Samuel, how are you going on this fine Thursday evening?
Oh, yeah, it's doing all right. The A-League is heading towards the end of the season, so, I'm keen to get to some more games, but yeah, doing all right. All right.
Yeah,
Busy.
yeah, no,
Busy.
that's
As you
good.
can tell, we haven't made a whole heap of videos lately, but
Yeah,
you know, we're here for stuff that's interesting.
yeah. We're the people's channel. We're the community channel. Yeah, whatever.
I'm actually thinking if we had a slogan, what would it do we have a slogan? Do we have anything? Maybe
No,
you can comment down below if you're a regular viewer what our slogan would be.
yeah, right. Anyway, don't give us a cheesy logo or anything like that, or slogo, or whatever. Let's talk about some of the teams that have announced their expression of interest to join the National Second Division.
Yeah.
There might be some names that are quite familiar to you, and some that might not be. We'll just go in alphabetical order. And actually, as we record this today, another one officially got announced, and that's IPL Leichhardt. From Sydney. We didn't actually start in alphabetical order because we should have started with Adelaide City, and then we're going to IPL Leichhardt. So two former National Soccer League teams. And then we've got Olympic FC from Brisbane, who didn't compete in the old NSL, as well as the Gold Coast Knights. We've got Heidelberg United, or what did their old name used to be? Was it Alexander or something
Yeah.
like that? They're
Alexandros, maybe.
yeah. Anyway, Heidelberg United. We've got Peninsula Power, who's from Redcliffe, in or near
North of
Brisbane.
Brisbane. Yeah.
We've got Preston Lions, obviously one of the model clubs for a national second division. They're in a second division themselves down in Melbourne. We've got Rockdale from Sydney. We've got Sydney Olympic, and we've got the Sunshine Coast Fire. So that's 10 teams that have officially announced, but there's quite a few more that actually haven't officially announced anything. But the rumor, the hot mail is that they're likely to have submitted bids is Marconi, Melbourne Knights, South Melbourne, Wollongong, and a potential Brisbane merge between Brisbane Strikers and the Wynnum Wolves. So that'll be an interesting one. Watch out for that one. But Samuel, thoughts on those clubs, or just the amount of clubs we've had entries for?
Yeah, obviously at first we're just talking about clubs who have announced that they have submitted an expression of interest. So you may have noticed there's a couple of big names that you would expect who are missing from that list. So I think that's just interesting to know, and we will get on to talk about those. I think I love, well, what's that? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 teams who have officially submitted. So if actually no one else has, you could run off 10 teams. You'd probably want more, but you could definitely do 10 teams. So that's exciting. First of all, that's a good number, considering that we're expecting some of those other big names to jump in on board. We're looking at easy a 14 to 16 team competition, if they can afford it. And so I think I love there's some big teams. Adelaide City are huge. That's really cool. Other team that really stands out for me as like the big power in this is Sydney Olympic.
I thought you were going to talk about Peninsula Power.
Not quite. And I think we all know that Gold Coast Knights potentially have some really good backing. So that's exciting to see. Quite interesting that there's 4 teams from Queensland, Southeast Queensland, who've put in interest. I've got to admit, I don't know anything about Sunshine Coast Fire. I'm just trying to find them actually on the current NPL ladder for Queensland, and they are sitting Sunshine Coast Wanderers, I can see. Is that them?
I think they're two different teams, the Wanderers and the Flame.
Okay, so they're not even in the well, that's under 23s. That's probably why. Interesting. Like,
Look,
yeah, I don't see Sunshine
so
Coast
I think
Fire.
if you look up Sunshine Coast FC, they play in the Queensland Premier League, which is the level
Okay.
below MPL in Queensland.
So that I mean
Yeah.
that's quite interesting. We also have uh down in Melbourne, Preston Lions obviously aren't in the first division down
Mm,
in the Victorian NPL, but they've got quite a big following, obviously strong ties to the Macedonian community down
mm,
there, and so they're actually quite big, and a lot of people know about them. But some of these teams are popping up. Sunshine Coast Fire, just a Queensland Premier or Brisbane Premier League team. That's quite interesting that they would even, you know, jump in
mm,
on this.
mm,
Um, yeah, so I think there's a good spread. Interesting to see. We've got mostly an East Coast competition here. Um, yeah, we've got one from Adelaide, no one from Perth, no one from the Northern Territory, no one from Tasmania. So yeah, I think we'd still like to see a couple more, and maybe that's where we can jump over, Brad, to talk about some of the big, not yet announced, or who might
yeah, that
actually jump in.
we don't really know where they're at, whether they're rumored to be putting one or they haven't. And obviously, probably the biggest one that we don't know that hasn't gonna put one in or not. Got to talk about the elephant in the room of Sydney United. I'm sure they will put in an application. Whether that gets approved or not, and that'll time will tell for that one. Um,
Maybe there's a whole other video that we could make talking about Sydney United and whether or not they should be in this national second division. I think it's definitely a big topic, isn't it? Because they are a big club. They've made it to
mm,
the final of the Australia Cup last year, and that was this progression from introducing the Australia Cup back in to see what is the level between A League and the rest, and we finally got to this stage where we got a non-A League team in the grand
mm.
final. So you're saying that that gap is actually closing, and to be honest, it was a pretty close final. Two penalties for MacArthur.
Nah, me watching the game, they had nothing.
But
Like, yeah, it was two penalties, but Sydney United got nowhere near it. But yes, like for them to make the
this
final,
progression, yeah,
yeah,
this progression of getting towards a
yeah,
connected mid, that was the fruit of it. We finally got there, and it is disappointing to see some of the things with the fan base of Sydney United. So
yeah.
there's absolutely it's probably the headline one at the moment. But I think that's taken a lot of attention away from teams that we haven't heard from, like South Melbourne Football Club.
Imagine if South
Yeah.
Melbourne didn't get in. Man, the memes. Could you imagine that? No, they'll surely be submitting one along with Melbourne Knights. No doubt about it. South Hobart could potentially be a team from Tasmania. What do you reckon?
Mm.
Is that a something we could see there?
I would love to see it. Unfortunately, it's kind of the thing, and this is where second division and A League expansion kind of clash heads a bit,
Mm,
because you kind of think if Tasmania is going to get a rectangle stadium, it's got to be for the A League. Like, surely the government's not going to approve it if it's for anything lower than the A League.
mm,
And so you kind of, for Tasmania's kind of sake, you hope that's actually where they could slot in. And so I don't know if they have to choose and put their eggs all in one basket. Like,
mm,
is it second division or A League? Because if you go second division, you're looking at 10 years before that's connected to the
mm,
A League. And if you go A League, you know, uh, could be interesting. Are they big enough for that? So
mm.
yeah, I think that's an interesting one. I'd love to see them involved in both, to be honest. I'd
Yeah.
love to see a team from Tasmania in both. I just don't know if it's well, look, football's the biggest sport right around Australia. Surely there are enough players. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'd like to see. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there'll be no lack of players. It's just because it's in such a not a far away place, but such a place where there is a lack of representation in terms of professional sport, and there's a reason for that. It's just a general lack of population and interest. But that doesn't mean an A-League team or a second division team can't work there. Because I think we've seen it with the likes of the Tasmanian Jack Jumpers in the basketball, that Tasmanians are eager for representation. Whoever thought a basketball team would be that successful in Tasmania? I think these people, they're a small patriotical part of Australia. They want representation.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
a team, South Melbourne, I don't know their ethnic background, but I don't think that'll matter for them. They'll be like, great, this is a team at a reasonable national level we want to get behind. But that doesn't mean we can't have a Tasmanian United or something like that in the A-League.
Yeah.
Anyway, you said, I think Northern Territory mentioned. I don't think that was really ever considered whatsoever. Although Perth Soccer Club have come out and said they will not be submitting an EOI. They've come out and said we just want to watch it unfold. We're excited for this, and I think they didn't rule it out. Maybe in 3-4 years' time, might put their hat in the ring as well. And Bullen, I don't know how to say it, Bulleen Lions, I think from Melbourne, have also come out and said they're not going to be putting a bid forward. So I don't know. Did any of us really expect a Western Australian team to put a bid in? Because we always doubted just with the amount of travel they have to do. And just being like, let's be honest, they're so far away from the rest of Australia, Perth. It just always seemed a bit of a stretch for them to be a part of a competition like this.
Yeah, and look, it's a shame, and probably that's why Perth have come out and said now's not the time, that they're not quite ready as a club. I think the financial backing that a club needs to be a part of this is going to be quite big, and this is what we talked about in our last video as well. That this is a big financial thing. If you're going to play a home and away season across a whole season, 25 to 30 games. That's huge. If you're flying to and from Perth to New South Wales and to Brisbane, yeah, that's massive. Takes a toll as well as just chucking on the rest of the professional players, everyone on a salary, the whole. And so that's why I'm excited that there's so many clubs who think, yeah, we can do this. We've got the cash. We can make this work. Obviously, we haven't touched on clubs like Marconi Stallions in New South Wales, who have a huge kind of following, and they have big history, and they've got a massive club right next door, which
casino. Call it what it is. It's a bloody casino.
It helps them pay and be able to do this, and the stadium's fantastic. I mean, if you looked at football stadiums around the world in second divisions and you saw that, you go, yeah, sick. I want to go there. That looks sweet. Nice, tidy little place. Wollongong Wolves is another one, of course, New South Wales as well.
Yeah. I think Wollongong and Marconi are the two that we assume have put in bids. They just haven't officially announced.
Yeah, Melbourne Knights as well in Victoria. Obviously big, huge heritage, got the ground. If someone like Heidelberg's in, you'd have to say that someone like Melbourne Knights is in as well. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting to see. Brisbane Strikers is kind of the big team missing from.
Yeah, so they were the ones talking about merging with Wynnum Wolves. Brisbane Strikers actually in the second division. I think they call it the Queensland Premier League. I think they've fallen on some tough times, but yeah, they're talking about a potential merge to be called Brisbane United. I don't really know. I think that might be the mail that's going around at the moment. So that'll be interesting because I think Perry Park is a great ground up there that needs some good recognition. It needs some good funding. So Anastasia Palaszczuk, if you're watching, how about you spend some damn money on football? Because that's actually being played in the Olympics, not Australian rules and rugby union. But anyway, it'd be great to see Perry Park back. Not necessarily the top flight, but at a national level, would be great.
Yeah, I think as well, like there's only the one Adelaide team, so there's the potential for somebody like a Campbelltown City or Northeast Metro Stars from Adelaide. Are they big enough though? That's kind of debatable. They're definitely kind of keen, but I think the money could be the factor there. And I think probably the only other spaces we haven't talked about is Canberra. Is there any Canberra
Yeah, let's talk
teams?
about Canberra FC, I think, who is also Canberra, Croatia.
Okay.
So yeah, they could put
And
it. And I think there was Gungahlin United as well. They're another
Mm.
team that could potentially be in there. And there's the like of Edgeworth Eagles from northern New South
Yeah,
Wales, up in
Northern New South Wales.
Newcastle as well. There's quite a few. So looks like there's a lot of clubs interested. Looks like we're going to be having a proper home and away season next year, and we're going to be able to watch some football in the winter as well, which is great because we can
Yeah,
watch
good.
football all year round.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see uh, as things unfold. Things like a deal for viewing? Is it going to be through
Mm.
Clutch TV like the NPLs? Is it going to get onto some form of free to air or a streaming service of some kind? That would be really cool. Also just going to be interesting to see. Obviously, we're talking about this before the expressions closes.
Mm.
1 day left as we are chatting. How many will come out and make us re-film this video straight after? Maybe I'm hoping lots more teams do. It'd be great for teams to have to miss out because there's too many teams interested and put pressure on, all right, let's fire up this promotion relegation
Mm.
out of the second division to the rest of the NPL as soon as possible because clubs are pushing their keen. They see it's viable. Hopefully, it only takes a season or two and no one goes under and everyone goes, sweet, we can get on this. Let's go for it. And then they start pushing the other way towards the A League as well. And
Mm.
who knows? Australian football could finally unite and blow up.
Potentially. And I'm sure that's a chat for another time. We're running out of time ourselves, but thanks for watching. If you've watched us so far, this far, let us know in the comments who you would like to be a part of a national second division. And yeah, thanks for spending the time with us. We'll probably do another video. Hopefully we'll get a full list of all the teams that have put in an expression of interest in the coming days. And so that'll be another juicy topic. But Samuel, thanks for joining me. We've been the A-League Couch Critics, and we'll see you around like a rissole. Maybe that can be our catchphrase. See yous.